first. You get it. It's my response to Biden's congressional address. Now, to hear Biden tell it, America is just completely plagued by emergencies.
No one nation can deal with all the crises of our time. Pandemics, the climate crisis, systemic racism in our criminal justice system. Gun violence has become an epidemic in America. The insurrection was an existential crisis, a test of whether our democracy could survive. But the struggle is far from over.
Of course, Biden left out the only real crisis that our country faces right now, the one at our border, a crisis, of course, he created, he fueled, and now he's just totally ignoring. But have no fear, because Biden's not going to let all of those pretend crises go to waste.
After just 100 days, I can report to the nation, America is on the move again. Peril into possibility. Crisis to opportunity, setbacks into strength. We can't stop now. We're at a great inflection point in history. We have to do more than just build back better. We have to build back better.
In other words, Biden sees all of our emergencies as opportunities to remake the country into something none of us recognize. And it won't be the America that you know and love. And the policies that made this country strong and wealthy, Biden's just going to kill them all.
650 people increased their wealth by more than $1 trillion during this pandemic. And they're now worth more than $4 trillion. My fellow Americans, trickle down. Trickle down economics has never worked.
Okay, if that's the case, Mr. President, why are Americans so much wealthier than pretty much every other country? If this big government approach to economics actually worked, the Europe and Canadian model would be much wealthier than our model. But as you can see from this chart, they're not. But come on, of course, facts don't matter. They'd never mattered to Biden or the left, which is why they're just going to come for your wallets.
It's time for corporate America and the wealthiest 1% of Americans to just begin to pay their fair share. Just their fair share. I think you should be able to become a billionaire and a millionaire, but pay your fair share.
It's insanity to ask hardworking Americans, no matter how much money they make, to give more to a bunch of bureaucrats in Washington. If anything, we should be looking to cut government and get Americans more of the money that they make and stay in their own pockets. Now, Biden's point is that our economic system is fatally flawed and needs to be replaced by, again, a European model that has historically performed much worse than our own. But here's the thing we already know. Our policies worked that have already been tried, like low taxes, limited regulation, border enforcement, tight labor markets, and an America First trade and foreign policy. Now, we all know we had this system in place from 2017 until 2020, and it worked like a charm. So the only reason we have any economic problems today is because Democrats insisted on lockdown measures, which they're now taking their sweet time to unwind. In fact, Americans are doing very well in those parts of the country where they have their traditional freedoms back. The idea that we would imitate Europe or go back to the days of Jimmy Carter is simply inane. It's nuts. That's why conservatives need to reject Biden's claim that our country's in crisis at all. These only exist in the minds of leftist ideologues who hate America anyway. When our economy grows, the left just pushes for higher taxes. When our industry is booming, the left claims it's a climate crisis. When law and order is being enforced, the left just sees systemic racism. They're only happy when Americans are downtrodden and miserable and apologizing. The GOP should ignore all this talk of crisis and just point to the obvious fact that places that implement our policies are doing fine. We're going to talk to some of those governors tomorrow. At every opportunity, Republicans should talk up the success stories in their own communities, and they should emphasize that we are not going to emulate people who hate this country and whose policies can never work. Now, remember this. Biden is assuming that all those suburbanites and all those moderates who voted for him, that they want higher taxes and bigger government. Well, in 2022, we're going to find out if he's right.